There is someone in your head right now. Maybe they hurt you months ago, maybe years. Maybe you haven't spoken to them in so long you've lost count. And yet, here they are, living rent-free in a space inside your mind that you would give anything to reclaim. You replay the conversations, you rewrite the endings. You imagine what you should have said, what they should have said, what would have happened if everything had gone differently. You catch yourself thinking about them in the shower, in the car, in the middle of a conversation with someone who has nothing to do with any of it. And the worst part isn't the thinking itself. It's that you know it's happening. You know it's not useful. You know they don't deserve the space, and you still can't make it stop. This isn't weakness. This isn't you being pathetic. This is one of the most well-documented and least understood experiences in all of human psychology, and the science behind it will change how you see yourself and them. Let's start with what's actually happening in your brain. When someone hurts you, especially someone you were close to, someone you trusted, someone whose opinion of you mattered, your brain doesn't process it the way it processes ordinary experiences. It flags it. It marks it as unresolved, as incomplete, as something that still requires your attention. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik Effect. Bluma Zeigarnik was a Soviet psychologist who noticed something strange while sitting in a Vienna cafe in the 1920s. The waiters could remember complex orders from multiple tables with remarkable accuracy, but the moment a bill was paid, they forgot the order completely. The mind, she discovered, holds open loops. Unfinished business stays active. Completed tasks get filed away and forgotten, but anything unresolved stays at the surface, keeps demanding attention, keeps pulling you back. The person who hurt you is an open loop. There was no resolution, no clean ending, no moment where the account was settled and your brain could close the file and move on. So your brain keeps the file open, keeps returning to it, keeps searching obsessively for the closure it never received. This is not a character flaw. This is neurology. But it goes deeper than that. When you formed a close relationship with someone, when you trusted them, loved them, depended on them, your brain literally restructured itself around them. Neural pathways formed, patterns of thought, expectation, and emotional regulation developed that included this person as a central component of your internal world. They became, in a very real neurological sense, part of the architecture of how you experienced your own life. And when they hurt you, when they left or betrayed you or damaged something you believed was safe, those pathways didn't disappear. They stayed, fully intact, still firing, still reaching for something that is no longer there. Neuroscientists studying social pain have found that the same regions of the brain that process physical pain, specifically the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula, activate in response to social rejection and loss. The pain of being hurt by someone you trusted is not metaphorical. It is neurologically equivalent to physical injury. And just as a physical wound demands your attention, pulls your focus back again and again until it heals, so does a social wound. Your brain keeps returning to the person who hurt you the same reason you keep touching a bruise, because it still hurts, and the brain is trying to understand why. Now, here's where it gets even more specific and, for a lot of people, genuinely shocking. Researchers studying the neuroscience of attachment and loss have found that the brain's dopamine system plays a direct role in why you can't stop thinking about someone who hurt you. Dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with reward, pleasure, and motivation, spikes not just in response to getting something you want. It spikes in response to the anticipation of it, to the possibility of it, to the uncertainty of whether you might get it. During a close relationship, your brain's dopamine system became calibrated to this person. Their attention, their validation, their presence, all of it became associated with reward. And when the relationship ended badly, when the reward was withdrawn suddenly, unpredictably, without resolution, your dopamine system didn't switch off. It escalated. Because unpredictable rewards don't deactivate the reward system, they make it more active, more desperate, more obsessive. This is the same neurological mechanism behind addiction. And just like addiction, the thoughts aren't really about the person anymore. They're about the unmet craving, the open circuit still searching for the signal that never came back. Think about the last time you couldn't stop replaying a painful interaction with someone who hurt you. Notice what you were actually doing in those replays. You were almost certainly trying to find a version of events where something different happened, where you said the right thing, where they responded the way you needed them to, where the ending made sense. Your brain wasn't torturing you. It was trying to solve a problem. The problem is that the problem can't be solved through thinking, because the resolution you're searching for doesn't live in your head. It would have to come from them. An apology, an explanation, an acknowledgement, and they're not offering it. So the loop continues. The brain keeps searching, and you keep thinking. Psychologist Susan Nolen-Hoeksema spent decades studying this process, what she called rumination, and what she found should be both validating and sobering for anyone who has ever been stuck in this cycle. Rumination feels productive. It feels like processing, like you're working through something, like if you just think about it enough times in enough different ways, you'll finally understand what happened and be able to move on. But the research shows the opposite. Rumination doesn't lead to resolution, it leads to more rumination. Each return to the same thought doesn't process it, it deepens the groove, makes the neural pathways stronger, makes the next return more automatic, less voluntary, more compulsive. Harvard Health research published in Behavior Research and Therapy found that rumination heightens vulnerability to anxiety, depression, and insomnia, and critically, it worsens and sustains the body's stress response. The act of repeatedly returning to the person who hurt you isn't neutral. It's actively keeping the wound open, keeping the cortisol elevated, keeping the nervous system in a state of unresolved distress. You are not healing by thinking about them. You are, in a very specific neurological sense, re-injuring yourself. So what do you do with this? The first thing, and this requires a fundamental shift in perspective, is to stop treating the thoughts as a problem to be solved and start treating them as a signal to be received. The thoughts are not asking you to figure out what happened. They're telling you that something in you is still unresolved. Not in the situation, in you. There is a need that went unmet, a version of safety or love or validation that you were reaching for and didn't receive. And until that need gets acknowledged by you for yourself, the brain will keep sending the signal. The second thing is what researchers call cognitive diffusion, a technique developed in acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, where instead of trying to stop the thoughts or argue with them, you simply observe them. You create distance between you and the thought. Instead of, I can't stop thinking about them, you notice my brain is producing thoughts about them again. Not you, your brain. A process, not a truth, not a command, just a thought, arriving the same way all thoughts arrive. This doesn't make the thoughts stop, it makes your relationship to them change. And over time, with practice, with patience, with the kind of gentleness you would extend to anyone else who was hurting, the groove gets shallower. The signal gets quieter, not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped feeding it with the attention it was demanding. The person who hurt you doesn't live in your head because you're weak. They live there because you loved them, because you trusted them, because something that mattered to you was broken by someone who should have protected it. And your brain, loyal to the last, is still trying to make sense of that, still trying to fix what can't be fixed from the inside. You can't think your way to closure, but you can learn to stop needing it. And slowly, not all at once, not in a revelation, but in the quiet accumulation of moments where you notice the thought, acknowledge the wound, and choose not to follow it back down the same path again, the hold begins to loosen. Not because they deserve to be forgiven, not because what happened didn't matter, but because you deserve to be free.